You're watching Single Process with Bob and Joe. We've created this series of videos to help you navigate the difficult process of divorce. We hope this helps you. Our topic on this episode is splitting your assets in divorce. So Bob, I didn't realize until we were preparing for this interview that you didn't have to split everything 50-50. Half the IRA, half your cash. I didn't realize that you could really take a better look at it and work out what was best for...
I just didn't even think I had any assets. I'm still not sure if I do. So I'd love for Loretta to define what assets are and some creative ways to split them. This is interesting to me.
And things to consider.
Things to consider.
Absolutely.
So Loretta Hutchinson is with us. She's a certified divorce financial analyst. She has her master's in counseling and training in collaborative divorce. Her company, The Financial Divorce Plan, helps clients make smart financial decisions during and after divorce.
Welcome, Loretta.
I'm glad to be here, as always.
We're glad to have you. So,
are you starting with what an asset is, Bob?
Yeah.
Is that your first question?
Probably I should. I'm not even sure. How do you define an asset? Something worth splitting.
An asset is something of value that you have, something of value that you own. So a home is an asset, right?
That's the only one I can think of. But
right.
like
most
jewelry?
times jewelry are assets.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The money in your bank account, Barbara.
is an asset. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's always changing. That's
It is always changing. And so most times what happens when people are divvying up the assets in divorce, they take a specific date and they say, okay, on this date, what was the value of that account? And it's called a separation date. Sometimes it's actually a legal date, and sometimes it's a date, depending upon the state, of a date that they both agree on that, yeah, this is the date we're going to use as a separation date.
Okay.
So we value the accounts on that date.
And it doesn't have to be the date the court orders your divorce decree, or it does normally?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be,
no,
okay.
Absolutely not. In general, it's probably before that, because most people get separated prior to. And you need to have that worked out ahead of time. But yeah, assets are things that you own, things of value. So investment accounts, retirement accounts, life insurance policies that have cash value.
What if you don't know about these things?
Okay, so you have to get educated about it. It's really important. So what will happen is in the divorce process, if you retain an attorney, the attorney is going to speak to the other attorney of your soon-to-be ex-spouse and say, okay, you need to send us a listing of all this. And it's legally, they're required to disclose what those assets are. Okay. The conundrum there is you don't know if there is something missing, or if there's cash in this, safety deposit box somewhere, or so my advice would be make sure that get some information.
Well, this is why I guess we should have had our finger on the pulse of our finances while we were married.
I know. Honestly, yeah. I know we talk about this a lot, but I think a lot of women just resort to the day-to-day activity and they stop managing the finances.
Yeah, it's kids, running the house, all of that is really important work. But, that once a year at least, tax
day,
time, when they ask for your signature, that's
you should
when
know.
Absolutely.
All right, so once you've figured out what your assets are, or assuming you know already, how do you divide them? What's best for you? Because as I said in the intro, I thought you just took half of
50-50 split
of but not just of the total value of each specific thing.
Yeah, no, and it's actually very state specific about what sort of is precedent and legal in that state. But essentially, it could be 50-50, it could be 60-40. So essentially, what you look at, one of the things we said was a home. A home is an asset. Well, usually, a lot, and in this day and age more than ever, because of the low interest rates, there might be a liability attached to that home. So let's say we have $1 million home, but there's a $700,000 mortgage on that home. Well, really, the asset is only worth $300,000, and so that's the number that you really have to deal with. Now, we can talk at another time about that mortgage, and if the non-breadwinner,
chooses to take that on.
Yes, you certainly, there's parameters that you may or may not be able to afford that home just based on the $700,000 mortgage. You may have to use other assets to
so in the
put
home,
into the home.
You typically might have either a sale of the home and you split the proceeds if there are any, or one person buys the other out. But then what do you do about, let's say you have $100,000 in cash and an IRA that's worth 60. Do you take half of each, or is there more creative ways to structure this?
And it's very specific. Let's say that there's a home that the wife wants to stay in but just can't quite afford, and she wants to sell it after 2 years. Well, she might want to take most of that cash because she can put that into her home and maybe better qualify for a mortgage.
King, right?
Yeah. So and a dollar is a dollar. Where an IRA, depending upon her age, or a retirement account, if she receives $60,000 in that, she may not be able to access it for a while. And if she can access it, she actually has to pay taxes on that.
Right.
So it's important to sort of really know and
the full set of circumstances.
Yeah, full set
right?
of circumstances.
What about educational accounts for the kids? 529?
That's, it's very interesting you say that, because sometimes that kind of gets put on the side because it really is for the kids. And I can tell you in most cases, the husband and wife really do value their kids and their children's education and their relationship. But that said, what I'm finding, not just in divorcing couples, but in general, hugely funded 529 accounts. So let's say the child decides not to go to college. He's going to go to a trade school,
or they get a scholarship,
or they get a scholarship.
Prison.
Well, hope we keep them out of there,
keep
right?
them out of prison.
But that said, what happens to that 529 account? So we need to know who else is on that account, who's the beneficiary of the account, who determines what is spent out of that account. Again, you might have put the money in there thinking this is only for tuition and my child has to make up the difference. But your spouse or ex-spouse might say, no, I want to pay 100% of their things out of this 529, the computer, the room and board, the trip to, wherever. So
I bet that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of cash poor after a divorce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's important to have, again, some stipulations within the agreements, who's going to account for those accounts and what it's going to be spent on.
What about a gift? I'm sorry.
Yes, like an inheritance. What about your engagement ring? What about personal property? Do people just divide it up and divvy it up? I know you're not a lawyer, but just typically what you see happening.
So it's funny you say that, we start at a very high level. I tell my clients to do that. And again, their attorney has their own advice. But we start with those big things. And usually what ends up last is those things of maybe not real hard dollar value, but sentimental value.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, that can really put
throw the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yes.
The cat amongst the...
I know.
Is that a South African thing?
That's a South
I'm sorry.
African thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
It makes sense. You get it.
Okay, I got a good one for you. Daddy wants to help you through the divorce and give you a gift.
Yes, and that's okay, but you have to be very careful how that's done.
You want to hide that from your future ex-spouse.
Well,
that's not what you mean.
We don't say hi, Bob, you.
No,
well,
what do you do?
that's private information.
It is? But if you're in
Well,
the process of a divorce.
Yeah. So, how it's handled can be handled privately,
Okay.
and in a way that should not affect the divorce process. Now, again, there may be legal stipulations that you have to, talk to an attorney about, but there are ways that certainly parents can help their children.
Okay.
And many do as
Yeah.
they're moving through this transition. Because I find also that, both parties are really responsible most times for paying their attorneys, paying their
Right.
team members, right? And so again, the one who's more financially savvy, who's got an income, just makes it very difficult for the person who's not in charge of the numbers to
find money.
access
Yes.
Access money, because we learned in one of our legal episodes that the liability of the attorney's fees is both of their liabilities, but it's just getting access to funds sometimes.
Yes.
Which I think, again, is intimidating. If you're not doing it on a day-to-day basis, you don't know how to do that.
Yes, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So many more topics to cover here, but we're out of
right.
time. But it's so terrific, Loretta.
Thank you for talking
so much.
assets. Love it. For information on this topic and more, please visit singleprocess.com. legalprocess.me.